Linux is no longer just a niche operating system used by developers and hobbyists. It has quietly evolved into a powerful, flexible, and surprisingly user-friendly alternative that is now beginning to shake the very foundation of the traditional desktop computing world. And as whispers of Windows 12 continue to spread across the tech landscape, something unexpected is happening behind the scenes. A growing wave of users, from casual laptop owners to enterprise-level organizations, are starting to seriously consider leaving Windows behind and embracing Linux in numbers that have not been seen before. And this shift has sparked conversations, debates, and even reactions from some of the biggest names in technology, including Bill Gates himself, who has long been associated with the rise and dominance of Microsoft and Windows as the backbone of personal computing.
For years, Linux has been quietly evolving, improving performance, user experience, and compatibility, while maintaining its core philosophy of open-source freedom. And distributions like Ubuntu, Fedora, and Arch Linux have transformed from niche systems into powerful daily drivers capable of handling everything from gaming to professional workloads. But despite these improvements, the majority of desktop users remain tied to Windows due to familiarity, software compatibility, and ecosystem lock-in. However, that balance is now beginning to shift, and Windows 12 might be the catalyst that accelerates it faster than anyone expected. The first major reason behind this shift is the growing concern over system requirements and hardware restrictions, something that already sparked controversy with Windows 11, when Microsoft introduced strict requirements like TPM 2.0 and limited support for older CPUs, leaving millions of perfectly functional machines unable to upgrade. And now with Windows 12 rumors suggesting even more advanced AI integration, cloud dependency, and hardware-specific optimizations, users are starting to fear that their current devices may once again be left behind, forcing them into unnecessary upgrades or pushing them to explore alternatives like Linux, which continues to support a wide range of hardware, including older systems that Windows has abandoned. Another major factor driving this migration is privacy, a topic that has become increasingly important in today's digital world. Windows has long been criticized for its telemetry and data collection practices, and while Microsoft has made efforts to improve transparency, many users still feel uncomfortable with the level of control the system has over their data. Linux, on the other hand, offers a completely different approach, giving users full control over what is collected, shared, and monitored. And this level of transparency is becoming more appealing as awareness around digital privacy continues to grow, especially among younger users and professionals who want to maintain control over their systems. But perhaps the most interesting aspect of this situation is the rumored reaction of Bill Gates. While he is no longer directly involved in the day-to-day operations of Microsoft, his influence and perspective still carry significant weight in the tech industry, and reports suggest that he has acknowledged the growing strength of open-source ecosystems, particularly Linux, and how it has evolved into a serious competitor rather than just an experimental platform. This acknowledgement alone highlights how far Linux has come, from being dismissed in its early days to now being recognized as a legitimate alternative capable of challenging Windows on multiple fronts. The gaming industry is another area where this shift is becoming increasingly visible. For years, Windows dominated PC gaming due to its compatibility with major titles and support for DirectX. But with the rise of technologies like Proton and the efforts of companies like Valve Corporation, Linux gaming has reached a point where many popular games now run seamlessly on Linux systems. And with the success of devices like the Steam Deck, which runs on a Linux-based operating system, the perception of Linux as a non-gaming platform is rapidly changing, making it a more viable option for everyday users who also want to enjoy gaming without being tied to Windows. At the same time, developers and tech professionals have always favored Linux for its flexibility, performance, and control, and now that user-friendly distributions have made Linux more accessible to beginners, this preference is starting to spread beyond the developer community. More users are discovering that they can perform their daily tasks, browse the web, watch content, and even work professionally without relying on Windows. And this realization is slowly breaking the psychological barrier that once kept Linux adoption limited to a niche audience. Another important factor is cost. Windows licenses can be expensive, especially for businesses and organizations managing multiple systems. Linux, on the other hand, is completely free and open source, allowing companies to deploy and customize systems without worrying about licensing fees. And as economic pressures continue to rise globally, this cost advantage becomes even more significant, encouraging both individuals and organizations to consider switching to Linux as a long-term solution. Windows 12 is rumored to bring heavy AI integration, possibly requiring constant internet connectivity and deeper cloud integration. While this may offer advanced features and convenience, it also raises concerns about dependency and control. Users are starting to question whether they truly own their devices or if they are becoming increasingly tied to a service-based ecosystem controlled by large corporations. Linux provides a clear contrast here, offering a decentralized approach where users retain full ownership and control over their systems without being forced into subscriptions or cloud-based dependencies. The role of community cannot be ignored in this discussion. Linux thrives on a global community of developers and contributors who continuously improve the system, fix bugs, and introduce new features. This collaborative approach has allowed Linux to evolve rapidly without being restricted by corporate priorities. And as more users join the ecosystem, the pace of innovation continues to accelerate, creating a positive feedback loop that strengthens the platform even further. Meanwhile, Microsoft faces a unique challenge. It must balance innovation with user retention, pushing forward with new technologies while ensuring that it does not alienate its existing user base. Windows 12 represents a critical moment in this balancing act. If the changes are perceived as too restrictive or unnecessary, it could push more users toward alternatives like Linux, accelerating the very shift that Microsoft wants to avoid. It is also worth noting that this is not the first time Linux has been seen as a potential threat to Windows, but what makes the current situation different is the convergence of multiple factors: improved usability, better hardware support, growing privacy concerns, rising costs, and now the uncertainty surrounding Windows 12. All of these elements are aligning at the same time, creating a perfect storm that could drive a significant increase in Linux adoption. From an educational perspective, many institutions are also beginning to introduce Linux into their curricula, teaching students about open-source systems and encouraging them to explore alternatives to proprietary software. This exposure at an early stage can have a lasting impact, shaping the preferences of future generations and contributing to the long-term growth of the Linux ecosystem. As the conversation around this topic continues to grow, social media and online communities are playing a major role in spreading awareness. Users are sharing their experiences, tutorials, and success stories, making it easier for newcomers to transition to Linux. This sense of community support reduces the intimidation factor and helps users overcome the initial learning curve associated with switching operating systems. The enterprise sector is another area where Linux is gaining ground. Many companies are already using Linux for servers and cloud infrastructure, and now some are beginning to explore its potential for desktop environments as well. This shift is driven by the same factors affecting individual users: cost savings, flexibility, and control. And if this trend continues, it could have a significant impact on the overall market share of operating systems. While Windows is unlikely to disappear anytime soon, the growing momentum behind Linux suggests that the market is becoming more competitive. Users now have more choices than ever before, and they are becoming more willing to explore those options. This increased competition can ultimately benefit everyone, driving innovation and encouraging companies to improve their products. In the end, the reaction of Bill Gates to this shift is symbolic of a larger change in the tech industry, a recognition that open-source software is no longer just an alternative, but a powerful force that can influence the direction of the entire market. Whether Windows 12 will accelerate this migration or manage to retain its user base remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: Linux is no longer on the sidelines. It is at the center of the conversation, and its impact is only going to grow in the coming years as more users discover the freedom, flexibility, and potential it has to offer.